Okay, the recording has already got started. I'm going to get the little felt pen up here so I can talk and write on the thing at the same time. Alright, this morning we're going to discuss the dark triangles. When you start straightening anterior teeth up on adults, and frequently adults' teeth will be very broad at the incisal edge and pretty narrow at the neck. And if they're lapped over, like if one laps over the other one in here and you go to spread them apart and you put this one over here, you'll just automatically are going to have a little area right in this part. It's going to be dark. And when they open their mouth, it looks dark. And so you see these dark triangles, and you can't trim the teeth off on the mesial and distal enough to compensate for that, or you'd have some little narrow teeth up here, and it would mess up your interdigitation and your overbite and overjet and all that good stuff. So you have to learn how to do something with this little triangle. So that's what we're going to show you on this particular, the first case we have. Another one we have a little bit more problem than that with her. So we'll go ahead and try to call this young lady up. And she worked in a department store and sold cosmetics and things to make women beautiful. And she had this problem, this open bite with a big overjet, kind of a class 2 division 1, but she was extremely friendly and smiled and carried on and with people and got this job. And apparently they didn't pay much attention to, well, maybe they did, but they let her work there anyway because she could sell cosmetics to people. So anyway, it's an interesting thing. Now when she closes her lips together, you see this upper lip is coming way out and the profile looks bad, and she doesn't look good there, and she doesn't look good when she smiles either. So she's between a rock and a hard place here as to what to do. So anyway, we are going to go through this case, and when she smiles, I mean, it really stares you in the face. I mean, it looks like she may have sucked her thumb or something, other things growing up like that, but she may have gotten away from this. The vertical height of the face is fine. This was back in 1978, so some of you will think, oh, this is just old stuff, but it's just as prevalent today as it was back then, and you can see how broad these teeth are right in here. This central is just really quite wide. And then you take the other one, if it had this chip in it, I think the tooth may have had it and broke off on the model, but you've got this same width, and you put the two together here, it's gonna really, you'll really have to expand it out. And the necks of the teeth are quite narrow right here. So if you get an adult with a situation like this, and the lower anteriors are going to do the same thing, when you start straightening them out, you're going to have little spaces in between the interproximals that the gum is not going to fill them up. If it's a younger person and you open it up, maybe the gum would kind of fill back in the area and it wouldn't show as bad. But on an adult, it just, there's no way to stop this from looking this way. I'm going to pause this thing now and push 9. Okay, we were talking about these centrals, and if you spread them out, they're going to have a space up here at the top. Let me see, I'm going to have to fix this little pin over. And if you start working with them and you spread these out, you're going to have these little dark triangles around these teeth, and you'll have them down here on the bottom also. So you have to try something other than just slenderizing the teeth to correct this thing. So we look at it from different angles, and you can see how much you're going to have to do here. We have a class 2 situation to start with, so we're going to have to correct that. We're going to have some space in here like that. It looks like I'm going to have to go out and stop these dogs from barking, so I'm going to begin and go out here and chase them out of the garage. Alright, we should be recording again in here, and we got a bad class 2 situation. So this lady was being too protrusive, so we did actually take some teeth out on her, take her first buys, I think is what we took out, and brought this back and lined it all up. And the orthodontics was pretty simple. The correction, we brought this forward on the bottom and brought this back, got everything lined up real good. And when we finished the case up, now this was class 2 on the right side, and it's class 1 on the left side. So you just bring back one side of the mouth and leave the other side like it is, but we took the teeth out on both sides. Just explaining that part. Now here's the situation where we would, on the right side of the mouth was class 2, so we had to kind of back up one side and leave the other side pretty much where it was, and we kind of expanded it a little bit, rounded her smile out, and gave her plenty of room for these teeth. No big orthodontic problem here. Same thing on the bottom. We open that up and line the lower anterior teeth up. So when we finished the case up, we had everything going. We took the upper off first and put a retainer in there, and we left the molar bands on. We'll take those off later. But we had these huge dark triangles. We got these triangular shaped teeth, and when you bring them out and put them together, you're going to have that. If you look at it from this angle, you're going to see dark, you'll see spaces in there. You see a space here. And we call them dark triangles simply because there's no light in the mouth. I guess if you could put a light in there, you'd have stuff shining out through those gaps. So you have to close the spaces up, and I sent her over to my son, who was just across the hall there from me, and he filled those teeth in with composite and did a pretty good job of it. This is a problem when you're recording and you have to sneeze, and for some reason or another I just had to sneeze. Now we'll see how these triangles look when we get them closed up completely. And you can see where we're missing the first bicuspids in treating the case. And we took the braces off and put her in a retainer, but we still had the bands on the 6-year molars. We'll take those off at a later date, and then just close the space up from behind here to close that together. After we have finished, we can do that with a retainer. Alright, on the bottom we wanted to close this, and here's another little trick that I might show here. We used a elastic chain, you see, hook up on the molars to come back, and if you want this tooth to rotate in this direction, you put a tighter pressure on the labial side than you have on the lingual side. If you want to rotate the other direction, which we would want to rotate this way, we'd make it tighter back here, and we can hook that to the lingual butt we have on the band, and you'd have a lighter pressure out here and a greater pressure inside, and the tooth will go back and also rotate as it goes back. You can take this segmented wire. Nowadays we don't take any arch wire off at all until we have the 3-to-3 or 4-to-4 bonded on the case before we remove the wire, so you don't have too much of a problem like that. You straighten this all out and keep it that way and close it completely before you take the wire out of the mouth. Okay, when we got those straight though, we did have those dark triangles in the bottom and the top. Now there's not any sense in filling those on the bottom unless somebody shows their bottom teeth. You can clean in between here a lot better. She's got a little periodontal problem, you see, in here, and keep them cleaned out and just leave the gaps in there. And you can run little brushes and different things through here to take care of this better. Now he did a good job of closing these spaces up where you don't see them. Just fill that in with composite and kind of went under the gum a little bit with it right there so you don't see it, and it looked darn good. And so you wouldn't recognize that at all. There are other ways of making acrylic gums, like a part of a denture, and snap in there, but this is much better in my thinking in closing these gaps up. Do it with some type of composite, or if you want to come in and they've got enough money, you can go in there and put little porcelain facings on these teeth and make it really nice that way. Now probably you'd have to redo these over a period of time, but that's a pretty good solution. It's not terribly expensive to do that, and you get a little space right in there, but not much. And just leave the bottom ones alone. Let that just take care of itself. It's going to be a space there, but you're not going to look in the mouth at that point. And we corrected the class 2 relation at the same time while we're doing that. So just a closer look at these teeth after we had filled this in, you see. With that, you look at it from the lingual side, you don't see much at all. The gum's kind of filled in from that side to some extent, and it looks good around here. It doesn't look like a a crown that you kind of screwed up the gum tissue and it looks bad around the neck of the tooth. That looks pretty doggone good. So here's the lady smiling before we fill that in, and when she closes her lips together, she's not near as full. So we took the teeth out and brought the facial structure back some, and she just is a whole lot better looking woman. And so she still has her job at the department store. Now, this lady is a little different. Now you can see she looks good, and she's got her head up in the air, and she probably wouldn't like that if I told about it. Now, when she looked like this over here, and she had this horrible smile, and when she closed her lips together, she was sticking out. Now, we brought this all back, brought this forward, and she's got a more desirable profile, and just is a lot better looking woman. I want you to know that this lady right here was much friendlier than this lady over here. So I've often thought, you get somebody that looks real homely. A lot of times they're extremely friendly and develop a real good personality to kind of compensate for some physical deformity or something that keeps them from looking good. But this lady was extremely friendly and outgoing. This lady, kind of her nose in the air, kind of gives you the idea of her. She says, I look good and I'm just as good looking as any of you rest of you. And so this changed the personality of that lady. Here's a lady, we've closed the diastema, but she had a huge gap in between her teeth, and we went in and widened them out, and you can widen the laterals a little bit. You don't want all the width to be in the centrals. So she had this huge diastema. You just almost have to deal with it. So if you pull this central over and close the space in between here, and then you enlarge it a little bit from that side, so you put them together slightly, build up this side of it, and build up this lateral a little more too. So you've got to build up on 3 different areas in there. Maybe you could even build the distal of the lateral a little to allow this to close the space in there where she's in almost a class 1 relation. So there are other ways to close that, but you need to close the diastema in that manner. And she had a pretty well lined up in class 1 right here, so you didn't want to molest that. And the other side of the mouth. So we pull that together some and built the teeth up, or had this done, and she's hitting kind of edge to edge. She's just kind of a super class 1 now, but we brought them back as much as we could, so we have to hold that with a retainer for some time to come. But that's just another example of dealing with a space like that. And we always use a wraparound retainer, and if she'll wear that thing, this will stay together for years and years. Looks like we are trying to retain the laterals back a little up here. We could have brought them out a little more, and that might have looked a little better. Now, this is the way we retain the bottom. We just bond a wire on there, just on every tooth. And if they stay with that for a long time, well, we like them to stay with it 15 or 20 years anyway. and that's the lower retention. Okay, that completes our little video here of how to deal with the dark triangles. So I'm going to close this out right now. We'll hit